Okay, so do I regret Ororon? And the answer actually is yes, because the guy it took 100 summons to get, was not worth losing my pity for Pyro Archon, and now we have Citlali also coming in the same update. It was not worth it. Now you might be wondering, why don't I regret Chasca? Well, Chasca came home in 50 summons, and she's a lot more usable than Ororon. Because right now, I have to judge Ororon on his C0 performance because that's what all I got in 100 summons for this 4-star, right? At C6, the dude's great, but as a, character who I'm using, he's not really that good. I just did a run with Shangling, Bennett, Furina, and that cleared faster than a run with Ororon on the team. So he actively is making the team kind of worse, even if I were to just go ahead and get rid of that. Now, that's not to say he's unusable. It was only a couple seconds, but still, Ororon has that issue on him, right? And it's not like I'm running out and seeing, a bad build for him. He has 78, 176 crit damage, right? He's good. He's built good at this point. I don't think, maybe he has a better 5-star weapon. But as of right now, because he's not C6, the guy isn't there, right? I have Shangling. I've been playing this game for 4 years. She is a character who is gonna be C6. The amount of free Shanglings we've gotten is insane. So, Ororon, right? C6, the guy is great. But at C0, I just don't feel it. He just doesn't do enough damage to make it to where even running him as an Electro character is good. And I mean, I could be really positive about this guy. I was really positive about this guy because I don't think that he's a bad character. I just don't think that he was worth 100 summons. As simple as that, right? I am very much so. I mean, I have 60 summons, basically 60 pity, right? I have 1,800 Primo Gems, right? I haven't done any of the events this update, so we'll have more. But Pyro Archon's gonna be here, and she's gonna have some of the best weapon or best constellations in the game, and I'm gonna want those. However, I don't even know if I'll be able to get those because Citlali is gonna be in the same update, and if she's a support character, oh man, that's gonna suck, right? If she's a DPS, I can live with that, but even if she's a DPS, there's a good chance she might be usable on Chasca's team, and I really like Chasca. I want improvements for her, so if, who knows? And if she's a DPS, well, she might be the first good cryo DPS in ever since Ayaka was at her peak before 3.0, basically. After 3.0, Ayaka lost all of it, man. But yeah, it just really, Ororon, he's a great character. I just do not see this guy as wow, he's so good. No, not right now. I don't think he was worth 100 summons. He's a support character that isn't even one of my best support characters. It's as simple as that, I think. It's as simple as that. He's not able to actually achieve a higher performance in any capacity on my account right now compared to other options on teams. And as someone who generally likes running the best of the best, I mean, Ororon can be fun for an Electrocharge meme team, right? He could work on that. But I don't know, man. Fischl, when you're comparing him and Fischl, right, it's a good comparison. But then he does perform pretty much as well as a C6 Fischl on an Electrocharge team, I would say, right? Basically as well. But it's 100 summons that I spent for this guy that I could have had for the Pyro Archon and Citlali, and this guy just was not worth it. And I don't have to say that about Chasca because Chasca is a main DPS character who is very usable, who I like using, doesn't matter if she's the best because she's still fun to use. It's as simple as that. Whereas Ororon, he's one of these characters where you don't really use him, right? It's like when people tell me they hate Furina and they're not going to summon for Furina. It's why? Because you literally have this character in your party once. For 2 seconds, she's on field. Why do people who have these vendettas against characters? I hate Furina in the lore wise, right? I hate her. But I will not sit here and say, oh, I hate Furina so much I'm not going to summon for her. No, she's way too good to not do that. I've had people tell me that they're not going to summon for Furina or Nahida. I've had it happen. It's just these characters you don't really play. Whereas Chasca, she's coming out with a unique playstyle. This guy, he ain't doing nothing. He's coming out with his, generic, E skill, then Q skill. Guess who else has that, right? Guess who else has that, guys? It's exactly the same. All of these characters. Who else has that, guys? Huh? Who else just, maybe uses... Well, this guy, he kind of uses E-skill. But who else, guys? Who else has an E-skill, Q-skill, guys? Who else? Who else do we use that just does an E-skill and then a Q-skill? Like, who would do that, guys? Like, oh man, it's so crazy. Oh my god, I can't think of anybody else, right? I just don't know, man. It's so weird. It's so weird. What? How many characters do that? Like, I mean, we really need more characters that do that in like the entirety of their gameplay. Really, like, it's just really is something that you just don't see a lot, Like, oh my god, like I just don't know. Oh, bro, this is But yeah, E skill, Q skill. I'm not really playing the character, I'm gonna be honest. Maybe in Overworld, if I ever use this guy in Overworld. I've used him a couple times, but And another thing is, Ororon is a character who required to be raised. Guess how many books I have? Guess how many books for the new, characters? There's 2 new characters coming, guys, and I have 25 purple books. This is gonna be bad. This is just gonna be awful, and I'm preparing myself mentally for it. It's really, it's scary. I don't think Ororon is like a bad character by any means, but 100 summons worth? No. By no means was this guy worth 100 summons. And especially when was the last free 4-star we got? I'm pretty sure we do normally get like every other 4-star we eventually get for free, right? I think that's how it works. I think Charlotte might have been the last one we got for free. Maybe. I don't remember, but well, Kachina technically would be the last one we got for free, but that was special because it was the start of a new region. But I'm pretty sure we're probably going to get a free Ororon at some point, just for free, without having to summon at all. And, I'm probably going to get some constellations of him while I'm summoning, I mean, I just don't really have any other things to say about this character. He just is not good enough to warrant me wanting to, like, give him a passing grade. He gets like a C, right? He gets a C, but he doesn't really pass, right? It's like that. It's a C. It's a disapproving grade, right? You don't really approve of the grade that you're getting, but it's certainly you're like barely there, right? He can function. He'll be an option later when I do eventually get constellations for him, but there was no reason for me to summon on Chasca's banner specifically for this guy, right? And I mean, Chasca turned out to be a really fun character, right? And I can't regret that. Like, she's a really fun character. I have fun with using her. She can do really good damage. Ororon, I don't use him, right? Like I've already discussed, we just don't use this character. He's E skill, Q skill, and you swap out. There is the thing that he, does, give you this sort of, ability. You will be able to fly around, glide. I mean, that is useful for exploration. I have definitely had use for it during this, right? Yeah, I've definitely had use for it during this. But just like all the other sort of, like, mechanics, right? I imagine, well, one, this isn't unique to Ororon. One, that just, who knows? I don't know. Maybe, who would have it? Like, what is the small little girl that wears, like, a skull on her head? Ian or something? Isan? Maybe it's that. Isan, whatever. What her name is. I don't know. But I do know that there's a chance that she just is gonna have that mechanic for herself, right? There's just a chance. And because it's just like Kachina and Shilonen, right? Could end up just having those 2 mechanics, and maybe I summoned for the 5-star who is gonna be good and have that mechanic, so I don't have to use Ororon. Because don't forget, Ororon necessarily isn't... He's good for exploration, but in terms of when you fight enemies, it's not really that good. One thing I'm starting to really not like about a lot of these new Natlan releases is the fact that they have these really good exploration mechanics, and then they're really hard to actually use to fight enemies, right? Like Kanich, right? I've used Kanich. Shilonen, you use her as a support, so you don't really want to go against that. But Chasca, she's a main DPS. She actually can sort of work, but a lot of the times it's like, she doesn't really do enough damage to the enemies, especially if they're spread out. She doesn't really do enough damage. I'd prefer if we were just, E-skill one-shot the enemy, right? That's what I would prefer for my 5-star DPS who I've raised up and put a lot of talents into, I'd prefer, you know, for them to be incredibly strong and just destroy basically everything they touch, right? It's, you know, something that I've, you know, gotten with Arlecchino and Nevi for the past, you know, year-ish. I don't know when Nevi came out, but he's probably a year old at this point. But Nevi, he's been just insane. You just press his E-skill, vaporize everything in front of you, and then you're done, right? You can set up a little bit with Shieldin, and then, you know, that combo just wipes out the floor. And, you know, we don't really have that for Natlan, right? Ororon certainly isn't going to bring that to the table. He just doesn't do anything beyond his E-skill and Q-skill. I mean, he can do damage with his E-skill and Q-skill, but his Q-skill requires energy, and his E-skill, you know, his E-skill is his E-skill, which, you know, it's not really going to, it's on cooldown, not really, it's a big damage in one hit, but, like, what if there's a second enemy? You know, I know it ricochets to other enemies. Let's say there's another enemy, you know, and it's still on cooldown. It's not really that great. Whereas, you know, Nevi and Arlecchino, they're easily able to do whatever, right? You switch between Nevi, uses E-skill, uses burst, you know, and then you swap between those. Nevi, you know, you're running Fiorino on his team all the time, so she's got Favonius able to regen energy for him. It, you know, it just works with them, right? Whereas these Natlan releases, none of them are really that great. I mean, I don't need to explain Kinich, right? He just, no burn, you're bad, right? As simple as that. And you don't really, like, I'd prefer to just be able to use the character with minimal setup, right? Which is why Shieldin is really nice, because it's just a pure E-skill, and then you have all the buffs, right? Kazuha, he can do the same, but he does it for less longer, and, you know, it's not as easy, right? Because he'll also set the grass on fire if you're using Arlecchino, and, I mean, that can happen easily just by using Arlecchino's normal attacks, but generally, Kazuha spreading it, you know, all that fast is not really fun. So even for exploration, you know, like, he does have a gimmick that is really nice, but honestly, his gimmick is probably the weakest of them all, right? Like, he's not really, like, Chasca is literally flying around. Ororon, he goes ahead and he hops up and does this, right? And then he's done that. And then you have this, which is nice, but an owl, this isn't some ability that's, oh my god, crazy. No, you can just have an owl. And that one, it's super easy to replace. Whereas, you know, Chasca, you know, you need the Quackosaur, you know, you don't really want to go over to the Quackosaur, get it, right? You know, and then you have to fly with the Quackosaur. Whereas Chasca, it's just, oh, yeah, sure, fly. Fly like this. Yeah, it's super easy to just fly like this everywhere with Chasca. So, yeah, that's the thing that's going to be it for this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.